We've all had those moments where we've dreamt of ways to make life better, and for Walt Disney, as he sat on a bench eating his peanuts, one simple ride pushed that thought into the next level, an idea that would turn into a global sensation and change the way people vacation forever. This is the story of Disneyland's King Arthur Carousel. What some don't realize is Walt had been conceptualizing an amusement park since the 1930s, but the idea was shelved due to movie productions taking up resources as well as the war putting a halt to many things. Now, as the war ended, and the life of Americans transitioned into a post-war boom of sorts, Walt Disney once again found himself inspired to create an amusement park. Saturdays was always Daddy's Day with the girls, Walt said, taking his girls to Griffith Park to ride its historic merry-go-round, and it was there that he reported having the thought of creating somewhere that both children and parents could have fun. Some of the earliest memories of an amusement park Walt would have had was of the Electric Park in Kansas City, developed to attract the park visitors to the nearby brewery. The owners of both the park and the brewery also built a trolley system. This system would take people down the streets of Kansas City and eventually to the park. A memory I'm sure Walt would have had since the park was in its heyday when he lived in Kansas City. And he would visit this park often. There is no doubt in my mind that the memories of Electric Park served as great inspiration for Walt as he built his own park. The park had rides, a roller coaster, fountains, immaculate gardens, a German-style beer garden, and it even put on elaborate night shows at its lake with dancers, music, and fireworks. Unfortunately, this park suffered a massive fire in 1925 and had to be closed down, but its memory still lives on today. As the development of Disneyland began, the main draw was to be Fantasyland, the land that represents the Disney Studios' heritage. Its medieval court was Main Street, and at the center of Main Street, that's right, the King Arthur Carousel, the pride and joy of Disneyland that dates way back before 1955. No Disneyland ride is more historic or iconic than this beautiful carousel, and its placement is on purpose so you can see its twinkling lights through the castle's opening, drawing you into a land of fantasy and dreams. The carousel is from the Denzel Carousel Company, a company founded by a German immigrant in 1867 in Philadelphia, who would hire many European immigrants with special craftsmanship skills perfect for crafting beautiful carousels that can still be found throughout the U.S. today. But Disneyland's carousel wasn't purchased in the U.S. It came from an amusement park in Canada called the Sunnyside Amusement Park in Toronto, that ran from 1922 until 1955 to make room for the ever-expanding highway system. This is when Walt purchased one out of the two carousel-style rides they had at the park. That carousel, of course, is the one we know and love today. The only problem was that this carousel had a mix of animals, and Walt wanted every one of them to be running and galloping horses. So they had some of the animals repurposed in the Casey Jr. Circus train ride, as Walt and other team members set out trying to find horses that would fit the charging knights of the Round Table experience that was the inspiration for the ride in the first place. After many months of searching all around the country, finally enough horses were collected to fill all 71 horse positions. This meant that a lot of reshaping and painting had to happen to make all of these horses jumpers, as well as making the color scheme cohesive. You can see on these images the notes for the changes on some of these horses that were meant to be made. That's why if you look closely at the different horses' faces, you'll notice all the uniqueness of each horse. The carousel has seen two major refurbishments since Disneyland's opening. The first refurbishment was with the Fantasyland overhaul to give the entire land more of a European countryside look instead of the medieval fair look, as well as making room and expanding the entire land, so the carousel was moved back. It received a new roof and was repainted orange, red, blue, and gold. The other big refurbishment was in 2003 as part of the 50th anniversary, where they rebuilt the turntable to make it more accessible for wheelchairs and to add a 4-person wide bench, taking the horse count down to 68. And since the one white horse was always the most popular horse, they decided to paint all of the horses white. Now Jingles, the lead horse and the Disney family favorite, was painted all gold in 2005 as part of the celebrations, but then in 2008, Jingles underwent one more change to represent theming from Mary Poppins, including a J and an A monogram for Julie Andrews. You can find many fun details on this particular horse, and understandably, she is very popular and usually has visitors rushing to it each time the ride reloads. What about you? Do you have a favorite horse on this carousel? Knowing the history of this beautiful carousel helps you understand why it has such a spirit and energy to it. One that draws characters and guests alike to it every day. With its lights and its music, it's like it's saying you're finally at Disneyland and you're home. There's something about placing your little one on this carousel for the first time that seems like a rite of passage. Like you're handing off the baton from one generation to the next, saying it's your turn to imagine and play now, to find the heroes of your own story and go on your own adventures. Just like the many others who rode this carousel before us, because there's been a century's worth of smiles and giggles on this ride before us, it's something worth acknowledging, don't you think? Thank you for watching today, and if you liked it, don't forget to tell the algorithm so by liking this video or leaving a comment so it knows to share it with others. Thank you again, and take care.